Today in our this podcast series, we're talking about family and beyond. And I have with me Nidhi, who has been in US for more than 2 decades now. And she's a mother of two kids. And she also was a senior scientist researcher, but took a break for her kids right now. So she's managing household, managing husband, as well as she has senior people in her household as well. So we were discussing, and she wanted to. It was a good discussion that we wanted to talk about having multi-generation in a household and dealing with different age groups and living with the different age groups as well. So thank you so much, Nidhi, for taking out time for our podcast. And welcome to our podcast. I know you're the first. It's the first time for you, but I'm telling you, whoever I talk to, I do tell them that it's not just one time that I'm going and talking to you. So just keep in mind that we'll be reaching out to you more. But welcome to our podcast. Why don't you tell us more about you?
Hi, Sugandha. No, thank you for inviting me. I've been listening to the past episodes, and they all are very interesting. It's a very good initiative. So, congratulations to you and your team members and partners. I have been here for more than 20 years. I was working on the East Coast for about 6 years. Got married, moved to California, and been always here. Have two boys. One's about to turn 13 and the other's about to turn 16. So, and the oldest one, who I call the youngest one, was my husband. Will be 50 soon. So yeah, it's a busy household, three boys. But we also have our parents with us. So they spend half a year with us and half a year back in India.
Mhm.
Both sides, my husband's and my parents. So it's definitely busy. It's busy in terms of managing seniors and juniors and people of same age.
Yeah, yeah. Well, wow. So, teenagers, of course, they have their own kind of, I would not call tantrums, but it's like growing age. They have their own things, like, of course, going on. Plus, then you said you have seniors, like your set of parents coming in, and 6 months it's your parents, and 6 months your husband's parents. So is it an adjustment that you have to do between the two? Of course, you would have to do a lot of adjustment as well. Do you at times feel that it's easier to manage and live with seniors versus the teenagers, or at times it's like teenagers versus the seniors? What do you think about it?
There's a saying, ki as they get old, they become kids. I think that stands very true. So I've seen it personally. They've been coming here for, last 10 years, but they come more frequently now after COVID.
Mhm.
And I've
Mhm.
seen the progression of, I mean, I've just seen the change in their behaviors. I mean, I'm talking about the parents, right?
Yeah.
How in our minds it's always like, oh, my parents, they do everything for us.
Right.
But then over time, you see how their health declines, how their temperament changes, and there comes a point where it's like now we need to do it for them,
True.
but
Yeah.
it's difficult for them to let go of that feeling that they
Mhm.
still have to do it for us. So they definitely, yeah, it's a struggle. uh I think, Joe, what I feel, and I don't know if it's the same for everybody, it's a struggle. It's a three-way struggle. So you are basically trying to figure it out how to do things with your parents. You're trying to
Yeah.
understand at the same time when your kids are growing how to deal with their lifestyle, their thought process, their,
Yeah.
just changing hormones. And then there is this third aspect where your parents are trying to figure out how to interact with your kids.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I see as the generation gap. Um,
Mhm.
it's not easy because your parents have raised or my parents or my husband's parents, they've raised us in a certain way. And we are raising our kids in a completely different society, different times.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not the same as we were raised. So that conflict is ever going.
Yeah.
It's not going to change. So I think that's a big adjustment that um, has happened in our house over the years,
Yeah.
where the parents have come to the realization that yes, it's different, and there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, I keep telling them, I was like, you grew up in a different environment. We grew up in a different environment. These kids are growing up in a different environment. Nothing is same in all
Yeah.
these three cases. So it cannot be the expectation that it has to be the way that was done in the past is not right.
True. Right.
That I think was the biggest adjustment we all had to do. Both the kids also, they also need to
Yeah.
understand that yes, there are our grandparents, they have certain expectations of them, and there's certain behaviors that they have to adhere to.
Right.
But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah, yeah, but you brought up a good point, and I think that what I would want to know more is the kids, right? I mean, it's also an adjustment for the kids also to see that, it's not just one set of parents that we are living with, and especially in this kind of a society, but it's our grandparents also that would be here. So, how did your kids initially take it up? Of course, you're saying they are coming for 10 years, so they were your kids were pretty young when they started seeing, but how is it really normal for them? And do they go to your grandparents for the advice? And also, do they get more pampered from their grandparents whenever they get scolded?
Oh yeah, pampering has always been there for all these years, even when they were very little. And
Okay.
to your first question, yes, when they were young, they loved having grandparents, right? Because that meant no after school care. They would come
Right.
back home. Both me and my husband, we used to come back late from work at that time. They were pampered, like they get to eat as many cookies, as many candies, watch as much TV. So definitely that is there. Now, as they're
Yeah.
growing up, they're becoming more independent.
Mhm.
I think the pampering has gone away, but they still love the fact that they have grandparents at home. But I do see that that interaction has become less and less. But
Mhm.
I won't say that's only with the grandparents. I mean, as the kids are growing, they're becoming more independent. They have their own thought process.
Right.
Even with us, it has changed. Even with me, like I sometimes I'm like, "मेरे बच्चे छोटे बेचारे प्यारे बच्चे कहाँ चले गए?" The ones I hug and cuddle. They don't want all that.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
want to be told, don't do this, don't do that. So it's yeah, it has changed, but they also feel that the adjustment is also because both sets of parents have different styles of living,
Mhm.
different
Yeah. Yeah.
styles of doing things. So it because they've been coming for so long, I think they're used to it. They
Mhm.
did takes a few weeks to get
Mhm.
adjusted, but they still love it. They love
Yeah.
having grandparents around. I'd ask coming to the point where they go to them for advice. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, they don't even come to me for any advice.
True.
I have to go to them. Okay, what do you think about this color? What do you think about this? This showpiece that I'm getting. So that factor is gone, way gone.
True. So yeah, so of course talked about kids, but as well as between the spouse, right? I mean, do you had you ever felt, and I think this is what one big complaint today's people or today's society does, is that the concept of privacy, that we want to stay alone because it's privacy. And also, have you ever felt, or you and your husband ever felt, with the parents being there, it's our privacy getting impacted, or we're not getting enough privacy that we would want to, with our parents being there?
See, this is it's not a very black and white situation, right? You
Hmm.
can't be like, oh, we are getting privacy or we are not getting privacy. It's
Mhm.
somewhere in the middle for this, because yes, definitely you can't just be doing things like me and my husband. We can't just be like, okay, we want to go out for lunch. So you just get up and go for lunch, kids are
Yeah,
at school,
yeah.
and not worry about anything else. Of course, you have to, ask your parents would they like to come.
Mhm.
And even when in the evening, let's say if we're discussing something, it can't be like, oh, it's hush hush. We don't want anybody to know.
Yeah.
Or we're watching a movie or we're going out for dinner. Yes, it's not just the two of us right now. So in that respect, there it does sometimes you feel like you can't do it. But on the other hand, it's not like the parents want to tag along with us all the time,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
they're mature enough, they also understand everybody needs space.
Right.
So most of the times, even when we ask them, like, Acha, we're going for dinner, do you guys aap log chaloge? They're like, no, you
Mhm.
guys go ahead, we don't want to
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's that understanding from both the sides, like from us that,
Mhm.
respect, we ask them, we
Yeah,
want them to come with us for
yeah.
sure. But they also realize sometimes that no, it's okay, just let them go.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
fine, that they also
Mhm.
need their own time. So they just say,
Mhm.
no, we don't feel like, and
Mhm.
nobody feels bad about it in
Yeah,
that respect.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
Okay.
have it's an adjustment from
Yeah.
both
True. Yeah.
and understanding from both. I
Uh-huh.
think I've had friends where the parents are always like, they went there and they didn't take us, or they do this and not involved, which is also not right. But then I also
Yeah.
feel sometimes everybody needs space.
Right.
What I
Yeah.
have realized is like the way the system works, and it has worked for generations and generations back in India, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Certain boundaries you set, okay, this is what only I want to do and
Mhm.
nobody I want to interact with, or
Mhm.
I don't want anybody involved in this. But you
Mhm.
also have to give room to breathe to the other person. You
Right.
have to give everybody some space to do what they want to do as
Right.
individuals, or and then you set up activities that we all do together.
Right. Right. Right.
Otherwise, it just comes crashing down.
Yeah, yeah, and you bring up a good point, right? Back in India, we've been brought up where we've seen our grandparents, right? I mean, we've grown with them, and it was way of life. So हमें कभी नहीं लगा कि यार हमारी प्राइवेसी प्रॉब्लम है या हमें इनफ स्पेस नहीं मिल रहा है. इट वाज ऑलवेज लाइक वेरी नेचुरल फॉर अस कि ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स है ही साथ में ही जाएंगे या हम I remember कि my mom, like my brother, जब उसका birthday होता था and he was the youngest in the family and birthday cake, like my grandmother got really old and she was on the bed. Oh, she could not move. But my brother would always cut the cake and first piece would go to the grandmom only, like nobody else. And so I think that's how we've been brought up, right? So you're right, matlab privacy का issue nahi hota. But then coming to this point, right? I mean, another thing coming back from Indian